Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide divorce, mediation, and valuation services in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we will actually discuss environmental, social, and governance policies, or ESG policies, and its effect on valuations with Mark Zyla. Mark Zyla is a valuation expert in Georgia, and he's the managing director of Zyla Valuation Advisors, an Atlanta valuation and litigation consulting firm. He's also the chairman of the Standards Review Board for the International Valuation Standards Council. He was also one of the primary authors of the education program that the AICPA and the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors for the credential, which is certified in Entity and Intangible Assets, or the CEIV, which basically certifies valuation professionals in the valuation for financial reporting purposes. So if we follow that same logic, is that all of this investment or capital expenditures or, research and development, all of these are kind of categories of expenses in the business valuation. And so what you're telling me is right now, for them to invest in the future or some profitability in 5 or 10 years, that there's going to be a huge outlay of cash at this point. And in just like simple, basic valuation theory, less cash flow, less value. So what does that even mean? Like these businesses are worth less because they're focused on the future, or what?
Or they actually may be worth more. It's going to be so what it's up to the valuation specialist to work with management to understand the impact of these policies on the expectations, the cash flow expectations, the risk expectations going forward, which are the basics of valuation. So it sounds like there may be a lot of upfront investment. In certain cases there may be, but there's also a cost. If you don't do that, what happens? Are you out of business? You can't just have cash flows into perpetuity if you're making gas-powered cars when the world changes away from gas-powered cars. You're not going to be in business. If you don't have if you're a technology company and you don't have a social policy to attract a diverse workforce, you're not going to attract the best and the brightest. So it's going to impact not only your hiring costs and your retention costs, but it may impact your developments because you're not hiring people who can develop the next couple of generations of products. So it may impact your long-term viability and your competitiveness if you're unable to do that. So it has a lot of ripple effects. So there's some direct impact on valuation. There's some that are indirect. And then there's some that establish a framework for the continued viability of the company. And what valuation specialists need to be aware of is this change is happening, and eventually it's going to impact valuations. So you need to start thinking about it in terms of a framework and thinking about it, how it eventually might impact your valuation, your work, and what questions to ask.
Yeah, because it really, if I'm thinking conceptually, how do we put this into play? It is questions about what are you doing, but in some capacity, this is also in how you project. Like if you're doing a discounted cash flow method, which a lot of times in financial reporting you're doing, right? So you're actually it's not only just like, hey, do you have this policy in play? It's more so this policy requires certain influx of money or outflow of money or something happening over time. So you're also trying to categorize, like, at what point will we have completed the first part of an investment? And then when will we see the cash flow? And then when will we see the next run? Because nothing ever is forever.
That's right.
So is that part of some of the questioning is important to also help do some of the projections as well?
It is, and it's just an awareness of kind of going back to some of the things that we saw with the mandatory performance framework in terms of the responsibility of the valuation specialist and projection. So understanding to make sure that the forecasts are appropriate for use in the valuation. So it may be things just asking, what is your, Mr. Management, what or Miss Management, what is your ESG policy? And how do you see that impacting these cash flows? Here's what we see other companies in your sector doing. How do you compare to what they're doing? And if you don't compare favorably, how's that going to impact your business in the long term?